Saya pertama kali jatuh cinta pada sepak bola usia 5 tahun. Kakak saya lebih dulu main bola. Saya lalu ikut tertarik, sampai akhirnya bermain secara profesional selama 14 tahun. Tahun 2005, saya ditawari kesempatan bermain di Indonesia. Waktu itu, saya sama sekali belum pernah ke Indonesia. Sejak awal, saya terkesan dengan kehangatan dan kebaikan orang-orang Indonesia. Tidak terasa, karir saya di Indonesia berjalan selama 8 tahun. Hangatnya masyarakat, indahnya budaya, dan kecintaan pada sepak bola. Ini semua akan selalu saya kenang. Itulah kenapa saya selalu sangat bersemangat untuk berbicara tentang sepak bola dan diplomasi. Inilah Shalika Aurelia, pesepak bola profesional Indonesia yang juga bek timnas wanita Indonesia. Ya, pesepak bola wanita Indonesia pertama yang bermain profesional di Eropa untuk Roma Calcio Femminile di Italia. Dengan prestasinya, Shalika merupakan inspirasi banyak atlet muda di Indonesia.
Shalika, welcome. So good to see you here.
Thank you.
Welcome, Shalika. It's a great day to be out in the field today. And
It's a bit hot, isn't it? But
Yeah.
it's a great day nevertheless.
Yeah.
It's especially a great time to be involved in Indonesian football. Could you tell us a little bit about your journey, where it all began, and were you always passionate about football?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so thank you for inviting me here, Robbie and Sondang. And yeah, I think I've always been interested in sports in general since I was a baby. But at 4 years old, I kicked the ball for the first time with my cousins. And ever since that, my parents could not keep me out of the field. I fell in love with the game. And by the time I turned 14, I got called up to the under-16 national team. And that was definitely a memorable moment for me.
Can you share about a match that was personally most memorable to you and why?
Well, I think the first most memorable match for me was obviously when I first played for the national team under 16. But then 3 games after that, I was actually chosen to be the captain for the under 16s in the AFC under 17s. Of course, it was a big deal, you know. I was captaining my country. And yeah, it was just amazing actually.
Shalika, I've been following your career in the news really. I'm so really happy to meet you.
Thank you so much.
Your career really took off after the under 16. Can you tell us?
Yeah. So after I got to captain the under 16, the next tournament they had for the senior team, they actually called me up. And at that time, I just freshly turned 15. So I was a bit shocked because I thought I'm still very young. But ever since I got my first cap in the senior team, I never looked back, and the career has just set off real well, I guess.
Fantastic. Do you have any club games which were sort of, most memorable for yourself?
Ooh, for club games, okay. So, I think for me the most memorable was when I was in Italy. Sundays I would play with Serie B, in the second division with the senior team, and then Saturdays I'd be playing with the under 19s or the Primavera. And the Primavera were playing in the first division of the under 19s. And I remember this one specific game, the odds were 1-7 of us losing. And before the game, I came up to my friends. I was like, guys, we shouldn't worry about the odds. It doesn't matter when you're in the field. And by the end of that game, we won 4-0. I scored a goal from the halfway line. And the end of the game, they made a circle, and I was in the middle, and they were chanting my name. I was like, this is just crazy. This is like a movie, you know?
So I've always wondered, and this question applies to you too, Robbie. Shalika, who are your biggest inspirations as a footballer and why?
Well, come to think of it, I think growing up, I've always looked up to Sergio Ramos. I love the way he plays. And sadly, there weren't many women football players for me to look up to when I was growing up. But now that women's football is very up there, in the media. I think I'll look up to Mapi Leon now. She's Spanish, as well as Virgil van Dijk, because I think he's just the perfect centre half,
Awesome. So I used to look up to Xabi Alonso because he played in a similar position to myself. So I model my game a lot on Xabi. So did you model your game a lot on Sergio Ramos and now also Virgil van Dijk?
Yeah, I think most definitely, because if I see a fast winger down the line, all I want to do is just tackle them, and every corner I would move up and I would try to score goals. So I think that's how I modeled my game based off of those three players.
Excellent. So you were part of the last Indonesian national team to play in the Asian Cup in India. You played against the Matildas. What have you learned from their successes and what did you learn from that game?
I think you can see levels, the difference. Because, of course, they have an established league. The A-League is a great league. They also have even second division as well, NPL.
Yep.
And you see a lot of these players, they play abroad as well, They play in the Premier League, etc. While the Indonesian players, we don't have that system where we have consistently train, consistently play a game. So of course I could feel the different level between all of us. But of course it was a really, really good experience because now I know how much harder I have to work to reach those levels.
So any favourite players from Matildas you can sort of talk to us about?
I think I remember taking a picture with Alana Kennedy. I took a picture with her because she's also, of course, a centre half. She's also built like me, tall, big. And that game, I liked the way she played. And I know everyone started flocking to Sam Kerr because that's normal. But that whole game, I think I've had enough guarding her. So I went to Alana Kennedy to take a picture with her.
You're talking a bit about Sam, and I'll mention her hard work behind the scenes she done, and one of the reasons why she's probably the best players in the world. But representing your country, you're actually a global ambassador and also ambassador for your country. How do you sort of approach that very important role as an ambassador for your country when you're playing for your national team?
Well, I think obviously when you're playing for the national team, all eyes are on you. Inside and outside of the field, you have to, I guess, create this persona where it shows to the whole country, to everyone who's watching, that we're representing the country.
That's a big pressure, isn't it?
It is a big pressure because even if someone tries to, try to get you angry, you have to also think in the back of your head, I'm representing my country. My next move will matter. If I do something, not great, like punching someone in the field, for example, that would reflect so bad for my country. So I think in that sense, you have to know what to say, know what to do, and really think about your actions,
Fantastic. I sort of traveled the world and sort of played football. I was in Indonesia for a long time. Living and playing in Indonesia gave me a real deep and personal understanding of Indonesia and its culture. Have you got any experiences similar to that as well, where I heard you played in Italy, you played in England, you've represented your national team? Any examples?
Yeah, so I remember playing against Como, and this was a big game for Como because if they won, they were moving to Serie A, the women's team. And I remember that game, there was quite a lot of supporters and they were bringing flares because we were playing in the Como Stadium. And if you don't know this, back then, when you play in the Como Stadium, us players, we have to go through this tunnel. This tunnel was right under the stags. And in that tunnel, it was just drawings of all the Como legends. And you can hear the fans on top of us, stomping and screaming, Como, Como, And I looked at my friends. Before we even stepped onto the pitch, they were sweating bullets. They were scared. I saw some of my friends shaking. I was like, are you guys okay? And Shalika, how are you not scared? I'm like, you need to see Indonesian fans. This is nothing. So
You're actually trained for it already.
Biasa, yeah?
if you see Indonesian fans, I think in this whole world, I've never seen any fans that's more passionate about the game, because I feel like Indonesian fans, their passion for the game is unbelievable. And yeah, I think that also really, really helped me with keeping a cool head. Of course, there's a lot of pressure because especially when you play, if you're Indonesian, I think there's also a lot of pressure from everyone, towards the club. Why is she not playing? So of course, every single game I tried to play my best because I was, in a sense, not only playing for a club, but also representing my country, being the only woman to play in Europe at the time. You know?
So how did you adapt to the culture in Italy, like the food, the language?
I think in terms of like food and living in a place, I'm the least picky person possible. Like, I don't care where I live as long as I play football. So I didn't mind. Of course, there was the language barrier, because when I first came there, I did not speak a word of Italian, nothing, literally nothing. And I had to like teach myself the language. But I think in terms of the players, the friends, and everyone there, like the coaches, they were honestly one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. They're very welcoming, open arms, all of that. So I was very happy while I was there.
Folks, I spent a little bit of time in Italy as well back when I was younger. But talking about travelling, Australia's hosting the Women's Asian Cup next year.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about going to Australia to represent your country?
Well, of course, first and foremost, I hope that we qualify and I get to represent my country, you know? But if we do qualify and I get to represent my country to play in Australia, then I hope that we do better than how we did in India. I know that there's so many young players now coming up in the national team.
Shalika, thanks to you and other women football players, the popularity of the sport keeps growing. And as it grows, the sport really offers a way to address gender inequality, at least in our society, as well as how Indonesia presents itself to the world. Now, in your opinion, why is it important to increase the participation of women and girls in this sport, or any sport really?
I think personally, it's very important for girls these days to be able to open the internet and see that there are other women doing this kind of work, you know? When I was a kid, and I remember getting my first pair of football cleats, the guy selling me the shoe literally just went, "Are you buying this for your brother? You're a girl, why are you playing football? Soccer, like why?" But I think girls these days, they can like open Instagram, they can open the internet, and they can see that it's normal for girls to also like sports. It's not just a male-dominated profession. There are also women doing this too, and they're doing a good job at it, you know? And it's a prospect for them in the future, whether they want to take it to the next level and become professional, or they just want to do it for fun. It's just an open road of something positive that they can do.
You've been captain before. How did the sport, or how does the sport open the pathway to leadership?
Oh, most definitely. So I actually got scholarships for both high school and university due to football. And funny enough, I'm also finishing up on my bachelor's degree, and my thesis is also about women's football.
Tell us a little bit about what's the actual topic of it.
The topic for my thesis is actually about women's football, more specifically in Indonesia, and how each player create their online persona.
Awesome.
And how important it is to address social media, and like how these professional athletes use social media as a platform for good. They use their social media to inspire young girls and to, you know, open up new pathways for young girls to start joining on the sport. And I guess trying to fight the misogyny that may be internalized in the country is also a way to break through new barriers, you know.
Yeah, and good for you. We know, good for Indonesia. We have you.
Be an inspiration for the young girls coming through, that they can sort of, you know, if their dream is to play football, they can, you know, play football. Sondang, we've got a spare seat here. I wonder who that's for.
Funny you mention, you'll find out soon enough.
Halo, hey, Shalika, Robi, guys, Sondang, ya ampun, Jebreeet, gol.
Valentino, welcome. Long time no
Can't
see.
miss his voice.
How are you, mate?
Very good, mate. Long time no see.
Long time no see, it's like 10, 15 years.
Yeah. Background, we used to work together over 15 years ago.
So, Bang Valen, perfect timing. Thanks for dropping by. We were just chatting with Shalika under this really nice day. A bit hot, but we don't mind, do we?
Perfect.
Bang Valen, we were just talking about how football holds a really special place in the hearts of Indonesians and fans here. As Shalika mentioned, they have deep passion for the game. Without them, really, no game would ever be the same. Now, as a commentator, this is something that you understand really well. We would like to know how you harness your platform, or how you use your platform really to harness this love for football in a positive way on and off the pitch.
Well, I want to add one thing about what Shalika already said about the the supporters in Indonesia. Maybe she forget, there is one more aspect that people cannot left behind it. It's the commentator, you know. But thank you for the questions, really good questions. Years ago when I'm on elementary school, something like that, I dreamed to be a footballer. But as a Batak people in Indonesia, my parents choose to me to finish the academical things.
And be a lawyer.
Not every liar is a lawyer, but the lawyer must be a liar, you know. So that's a joke as well. And I become a lawyer, but I think football is still in my blood. So I work at the law firm, but then I also having opportunity to be the football commentator, and then I work as a lawyer in the football professional footballers association. So for many people that have dream like me but cannot continue their dream to be a footballer, there's a lot of things that we can also contribute to the sports that we love. So when I become a lawyer, I take specialty in intellectual property rights and also sports law. So I want to contribute with my academic skills to make sports more in a higher level up.
Valentino, you've traveled the world watching football. Could you provide us some examples of where you've seen football bringing nations together, bringing people together?
Of course. One of my dream is watch the World Cup and also European Cup, Euro. I made it on 2016. It's in France. And then I went to all of the stadiums in Indonesia for League One with one of the sponsors that I get. And then I went to Russia to go to the World Cup, and then to the Qatar for the World Cup as well. I watched the game in Anfield in England, in Spain, and it's really fantastic what football already did for unite people, you know, with our own jersey. That's the identity. We can use our national jersey in the other countries, and when they recognize, they will say just like, "You from Indonesia?"
It's a conversation starter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then don't wear wrong jersey. You go to Madrid and you're using Barcelona. Wow. It's like you're using Persija when we go to Bandung.
Asking for trouble, isn't it?
Asking for trouble, something like that. But what I'm trying to say is, it's really beautiful, you know, especially when it goes to the big events. We catch up with the other supporters, something like that, and we trying to get new friends and then networking, and I'm still doing that. I have lots of friends because I have traveling to watch football everywhere.
So that's one common language of football.
Yes, this is like the same language when we speak about football, even though with tactical clubs or something like that, we are different, but we are the same for Liverpool, eh?
That's it. Hopefully win.
But I'm Indonesia, Australia. Indonesia will get the points. Indonesia will get the points against Australia, you know.
We'll see.
Sorry, mate.
Thanks for bringing it up. The next question is about Indonesia and Australia.
Of course, Indonesia now is on same level with Australia.
So you talked about the role of football, of how football brings people together at a global scale. If you look at it from a bilateral perspective, from a diplomatic standpoint, the relationship between two countries, in this case Indonesia and Australia, really is built on people-to-people links. And between our two countries, football is huge now.
Yes.
What are your thoughts in enhancing this relationship?
If we speak, we call it G2G. I mean, government to government. One of the agenda, most of this is like economy, political, something like that. But I learned from Spain, they already using sports for their language to go to having bilateral with the other countries. So we can see the results of the Spain with the football, with the F1, tennis, even the badminton, and then we can see Korea using their pop culture. So I think we have to start to using sports as a part of the agenda between Indonesia and Australia as well. We already do that.
Yeah, that's it.
For the professional football associations, because we trying to adapt what Australia already did about the National Dispute Resolution Chamber. So they're having CBA, standard minimum contract, standard bargaining agreement for the players, something like that, and we're trying to fight to get that as well in Indonesia. But I mean, it need to be do in the bigger scale. It's not just the between the FA and FA, but I mean government to government,
And even business to business.
business to business as well. Because to be honest, people, if we say it about Indonesia, maybe it's also with the Australian people point of view. Oh, it's Bali. It's Bali. It's only Bali. But Bali also already did a good job about their sport tourism with the Bali United and stadium tour, something like that. So there's lots of opportunity to do that between Indonesia and Australia.
Are you thinking more friendlies, more exchange of players, more Robbie Gaspar?
Robbie Gaspar is one of a kind. He's like Steven Gerrard in Liverpool, you know. He even can use bahasa better than his Australia. He know, but saya pergi ke Bandung PP. Masa boleh tahu PP?
Naik wush.
Pulang pergi.
Naik wush.
Naik wush. Wush, yes. PP pulang pergi, home and away.
So anyway, to wrap up, a question for you both.
Oh my God.
Nyesel ngundang saya.
Aduh, Rose, you are
You know,
so
but I also want to say that women's bowler in Indonesia is better in the communication skill compared with the men's footballer.
Do you mean like at the player level? or-
How they spoke to the media, how they built their personal branding, something like that.
Was there a special training for that?
not so much, but what I've learned from my research is that women's football players need to be more careful, because I think there's a lot of prejudice that goes to women's in doing sports in Indonesia, and so I think the girls also know that, because we also get a lot of backlash at times, and I think that's why a lot of the girls are also really good at communicating, as well as the fact that I don't think women's football is enough to support youth until you're retired. So most of the girls actually continue till university, and even some takes like master's degree, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's also one of the many reasons why we're pretty good with communicating.
I also agree with Valentino that, you guys are a lot more articulate to what male players are, and yeah, I think we've got a lot to learn from you guys as well. So it's a really good point you brought up then, Valentino.
Because the thing that footballer have to know that what else that you can do after football. That happened with the men's footballer, and we compare with the women's. I mean, don't get me wrong. Yeah, we cannot say that women football now can guarantee as a professional profession in Indonesia. Now as a global, it's growing. Like in Spain, in England, the stadium is full for a women's league. But what happened in Indonesia, we're still waiting about the women's league in Indonesia and something like that. So you have to learn another things. You have to learn another skill. Because we still cannot guarantee about this profession. So maybe this is one of the opportunity as well for the relationship maybe between Australia and Indonesia, like giving some graduations for the athletes, for the footballer, having opportunity to get college, to get university in Australia. My cousins just went to Australia last week. He got the scholarship for his PhD, but he's not an athlete. I mean, that's one of the thing that I think can do by the Indonesian also Australia.
It's that soft diplomacy, or we call it smart diplomacy as well. Is it sport, is education as well. Come to Australia, learn about our culture, and we understand.
It's about the education. It's not just the education. It's the language, the food, the weather, the culture, and the friends.
So, anyway, to wrap up for both of you, question: where do you see Indonesian and Australian football, especially with the World Cup qualifiers coming up next month?
Number one, Indonesia's gonna win, most definitely. That's what I gotta say about it. We want it more. Like we haven't gone into the World Cup in so long, so I think our players are hungrier for it, you know?
Skor 3-1 atau Australia 3-1?
Indonesia, Australia. I'm trying to be realistic. Because the more we have expectations, the more we can be disappointed. I mean, we already having a good result in Indonesia. It's tight. It's strong. We already changed our coach as well. No comments for that. And then we will play in Sydney.
In Sydney, yep.
Those 48 Sydney. How about the weather?
The weather will be warm, it will be hot.
It will be worse in the summer. It's also no problem with our players. But I don't know with our players that playing in the Europe. But to be honest, to get 1 point in Sydney is our priority, and then getting another 3 points against Bahrain in GBK, another 3 points against China in GBK, and getting 0 points against Japan. In Japan, we can go through the World Cup, and hopefully we can go together with Australia.
That's it. Amin.
But I think like an important thing to highlight is that I remember watching the game of Indonesia against Australia and how pivotal Harry Sutar is.
Yeah.
I think he's an amazing center back. He saved a lot of goals from going in, and I heard that he's injured. I mean, of course, this is like really bad for him personally. I feel like, I feel for him. But at the same time, if the Indonesian players can take advantage of the fact that the big man is not back there, then hopefully we can maybe even get the 3 points, hopefully.
Do we have a score prediction from everybody?
If we win, it's gonna be really close. Like only 1 point, like one score difference, I think.
1-1.
1-1?
1-0,
Okay. Awesome.
1-0 Australia?
Indonesia.
Indonesia. But we have to remember, the football is not just a game. So Robbie, when I go traveling around the world, the football that I watch is only 90 minutes. But what our activities over there before the game, after the game, one day before the game, one day after the game, we trying using their language, we trying their foods, we know about their landmark and everything about the countries. I mean, that how's supposed to be sport diplomacy, right?
That's it. And I think, people from Australia are going to see a lot of Indonesian fans travelling in at the game. And I think they're going to be really pleasantly surprised in how passionate Indonesian fans are. So I just can't wait for the game. It's like a dream for me. Valentino, Shalika, thanks again for coming in. It's been so good to have you here and hear all your thoughts and, sort of stories about Indonesia and Australia, bringing them together through football. But one thing first, we've got some actually fans that want to come in and want to autograph Shalika.
Looks like your
yourself.
Shalika.
And then they probably want one from you too, no?